is my mama's garage.
The release of Frank Ocean's debut album, Channel Orange, took place 8 years ago, but his impact has endured like it just dropped yesterday. Coming from near obscurity to huge hype in a little bit over a year before its drop, Frank's music caught everybody by surprise. Who was this guy singing his heart out about Novocaine and flipping flows almost like a rapper? Singing soulful melodies on the Eagles and Radiohead? What's up with this guy's aloofness to the press and media? Doing no radio interviews and mostly limiting his reach to press. I don't know, but all of it made me want to sit in a corner and cry my cute little puppet eyes out. Wow. It was pretty unheard of at a time like this, but the variation was a real eye-catcher. Carving his own lane before his release and only enhancing his legend with time. Hype aside, Frank lived up to the expectations set by the public to advance R&B. Recording songs full of complex lyricism and emotional storytelling, his music was pretty groundbreaking. But where did he come from? How did he make it to the top of the genre? And why is Channel Orange so important? In this video, we explore why. Frank Ocean was born Christopher Edwin Breaux in 1987 and grew up in New Orleans. But he said goodbye to the city in 2006 after the Hurricane Katrina tragedy, and eventually settled in Los Angeles. Taking a 6-week trip in SoCal in his car with only $1,000, he eventually ended up staying for 6 years, and like most, if not all, starving artists, he'd struggle to survive by working various odd jobs in hopes he'd catch his big break. While not quite kicking the door down yet, he would at least get his foot in by making a name for himself as a songwriter, crafting songs for Justin Bieber, Brandy, and John Legend. These credits resulted in Breaux being discovered by Tricky Stewart, and through the popular producer, he earned a record deal with Def Jam Records 2009 under the name Lonnie Breaux. However, the label never really gave him any real support or funding to cultivate a recording career. Frustrated by the label stagnation, he connected with the de facto leader of Odd Future, Tyler the Creator, in 2010, and eventually joined the group that same year. In a collective full of eccentric rappers spitting about violence and teenage angst, and you know that word. Breaux would be the group's wild card as an R&B vocalist with soft melody and introspective verses over a hip-hop pocket. The following year, Lonnie Breaux officially changed his name to Frank Ocean in honor of Frank Sinatra and his very famous movie Ocean's 11, and released his first official project, Nostalgia Ultra. The mixtape was funded completely out of his own pocket, and it became an overnight internet success. The world was at his oyster, and he definitely knew it. Shit, apparently Def Jam did as well, because they quickly switched their neglected tune and met all of Frank's terms to renegotiate a new deal, demanding $1 million in full creative control for the production of his debut album. With the new deal signed, sealed, and delivered, the entire music industry watching his every move, and the momentum of Odd Future behind him, Frank was ready to create a classic. Prior to the beginning of Channel Orange's production, Frank Ocean garnered even more attention through writing for Beyonce on her 4th album and featuring on Jay-Z and Kanye West's one-off epic Watch the Throne, putting him even further into mainstream attention. And after reaping the benefits of these wins, he'd get to work on his own album. Frank took 3 weeks to write every song, as well as create production skeletons to be expanded upon later. The next 9 months would be spent perfecting these songs along with his friend and music partner Melee, in addition to bringing in Om'mas Keith for further assistance. Pharrell Williams and Tyler the Creator also lent their production chops on the songs Sweet Life and White. Channel Orange in name is a tribute to the first time that Frank fell in love as a teenager, the orange representing the color he see during that summer romance. Each skit uses white noise and sound bites akin to old television from the 90s, hence the channel portion of the project. The album is split into 4 separate parts that all blend this theme together. Part 1 is largely reflective on the past relationships that are no more in his life on Thinking About You and Sierra Leone. Part 2 is an exploration of shallow wealth that middle America obsesses over, heard on Sweet Life and Super Rich Kids. The latter featuring Earl Sweatshirt in one of only 3 collaborations throughout. The third part of the album largely speaks on addiction. Addiction to substances on Crack Rock and Lost, addiction to celebrity on Monks, but above all, addiction to unrequited love on Pilot Jones and Pyramids. A plea of desperation for these vices culminates in the record's final chapter, accepting that his loves are unhealthy and won't work in a long-term capacity, emphasized through Bad Religion and Forrest Gump. Peak Matter and Golden Girl, while mildly off topic, still fit perfectly into the album's cohesion, along with great features from Andre 3000 and Tyler the Creator. And we know 3 Stacks don't do features like that no more. Melee does an incredible job with the production here as well, using much more bare instrumentals that largely rely on keyboards and bare guitar riffs as structure. Occasional hip-hop drums are here, but mostly live instrumentation with abstract elements like trumpets and xylophone drive this record. The album is greatly sequenced and uses many elements of past classic records. Sierra Leone has a similar scene-to-talk ratio that's on Save the Children by Marvin Gaye, while Pyramids and Pilot Jones share many transitional elements used by Stevie Wonder in the 70s. Ocean and Melee would spend days listening to classic records of the past to find influence in building their own body of work. So with close to 10 months of Frank carefully crafting his first major label album, he was now ready for the world to see it. Channel Orange was announced for a drop date of July 17th, but it was actually ready for release a week earlier on July 8th. This ploy was done to prevent early online leaks that were running rampant at the time. But alas, fans were hyped to hear Frank on a major for the first time. That hype would expand into infamy on July 4th, 4 days before the drop, when he released an open letter through his Tumblr account, revealing to the world that his first love was with another man, and later including it in the album's liner notes. It's alleged that this was done after a writer picked up some of the same sex-related lyrics on Bad Religion and Forrest Gump while at one of the release parties for the record. But in reality, Frank actually wrote the record in December of 2011, but didn't make it public until July. Regardless, the moment was seen as inspirational to some and controversial to others, making Frank the biggest talk of the industry and every social media platform either way. You can't ignore that the announcement put a high beam of attention over the already anticipated project. July 8th came, and it was off to the races. Channel Orange would sell 131,000 copies in its first week, debuting at number 2 and receiving positive reviews all across the board for its intricate writing, quality vocals, refreshing concepts, and top-notch sequencing. Ocean won Album of the Year for several publications that year. He announced a 12-city tour that same day of the album's drop, and it sold out in less than a day. By the next year, Channel Orange was certified gold, and Frank would win his first Grammy for Best Urban Contemporary Album in 2013. Channel Orange helped usher in a new era of R&B at a time that the genre was not pulling in a massive amount of attention or sales. While staples like Beyonce, Chris Brown, Rihanna, and Trey Songz were still making consistent hits, it felt as if no new artists were able to sustain their popularity beyond their first singles or album. And when I say that, seriously think of all the artists that came out during this period and only had one hit. Conceptually, the music had become pretty stale. Stuck in lyrics that lacked depth, it would take the rise of internet culture and blogs to really add some interest into the music again. Along with Kaleidoscope Dreams by Miguel, the Trilogy series by The Weeknd, and Selling Souls by Jhené Aiko, Channel Orange deconstructed the typical norms in the sound of R&B, replacing tame, cute records with raw songs about hard topics on love and life. Subbing outdated synth production for much darker beats with live instrumentals and hollow chords. Sound aside, I don't think that we get the softer, gentle male vocalists that we see in current R&B singers like Daniel Caesar, Pink Sweat, and Giveon without Frank Ocean. Prior to his rise, most if not all male vocalists were intent on expressing their hypersexual masculinity with very little sensitivity to balance it out. And if it was there, it almost always just boiled down to outright begging for a shorty. Not Frank Ocean though. You gotta feel from just the structure of his songs that he didn't want to be like the typical singer that we saw before him. And that's why people loved him so much. The fact that he was willing to be different from everybody else despite any pushback he could receive from industry people. The same reason that basically put a muzzle on his expression from Def Jam Beyond Writing. Yeah, that shallow madness crooning was a time-tested winning formula, don't get me wrong now, but that just wasn't gonna work for Frank. Frank was talking about his feelings. Frank was speaking about every scope of his complex mind. Frank was being vulnerable, damn it. I genuinely can't think of any male R&B vocalist before him that was expressing himself this openly. An aesthetic that was unique and above all represented individuality, duality, and freedom. And with that, Frank Ocean cemented himself as the biggest R&B act of 2012, lighting a path to go anywhere he chose moving forward. I want to give a very special shout out to one of my subscribers, Niles, for requesting that I do a review on Frank Ocean's very first album. At the moment, I'm still accepting any requests to review any projects, catalogs, or just regular topics on the music industry. So if you got any, hit me in my DMs and we can make it shake, baby. What did you think about Frank Ocean's first album? How would you rank it on a scale from 1 to 10? Let me know in the comment section. Be sure to subscribe to my Mama's Garage. I'm Calvin, and I'll see you next time.